based on the screen that I'm showing. If that makes sense, which actually I am not sharing my screen. That's why.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have that PowerPoint.
Yes. Very good. So I want to thank everybody for being prompt. It's really good. We'll get into that, and we'll have some time to chat at the end. Rosetta?
Okay, that's fine. Just to give a little background, Legal Services Corporation is an independent nonprofit established by Congress in 1974 to provide financial support for civil legal aid to low-income Americans. The corporation currently provides funding for 234 independent nonprofit legal aid organizations in every state, the District of Columbia and U.S. territories. The mission of Landwood is to ensure equal justice for low-income people through the provision of high-quality legal representation and to improve the lives of low-income Texans through the rule of law. The legal aid's focus, we focus our practice in the areas of support for families, preserving the home, maintaining economic stability, safety, stability, and health, individuals with special needs, and problems affecting groups of individuals. In 2008, when the bank subprime mortgage lending practices caused the market to crash, the government, and then the government had to bail out the financial industry responsible for the problem. In the aftermath, those banks were required to pay fines. So those fines resulted in funding that was allocated to help communities affected by their financial misappropriation through legal aid. So Legal Aid of Northwest Texas runs Community Revitalization Project, which provides free legal services to underserved communities through support with fair and affordable housing, environmental justice, community education. And what we're doing today is part of our work by developing nonprofit capacity in each of the groups that are represented here today. So thank you and welcome. Today's facilitators will be Eleazar, who's the legal secretary for CRP, Sam Prince, the Director of Development for Legal Aid of Northwest Texas, Nancy Yakowitz, who is the staff attorney for CRP, and then myself, Rosetta Howard Jackson. I am a paralegal with CRP. So just to briefly go over today's workshop activities, we'll review a CDB federal funding grant, review application eligibility and requirements, review a CDBG COVID-19 application and application process, present the grant narrative writing tool prepared by CRP, present the budget development tool prepared by CRP, and then after we finish that, we'll have Q&A.
All right, Rosetta, I'll take it from here if you will mind the attending in case somebody else comes in.
Okay.
So right now, what we decided to do was we were going to piece together how to do a CDBG grant. This segment, I'm going to pass it along to Nancy, who is going to go over the 20 application questions that this specific that this grant is specifically asking for. So Nancy, I will let, and we're on this tab right here, I will let Nancy take it over from now.
Good morning, everyone. Eleazar, is it possible to make the OneNote screen larger just to, I can see two screens for yourself and the OneNote, but I think for folks who want, yeah, that's better. So just kind of for background purposes, what we're going to go through today is an actual grant application that the City of Fort Worth currently has available. The deadline for this is November 16th, and this is an application for nonprofit organizations who want to apply for community development block grant funds specific to COVID. And we're going to walk through this so folks have a sense of the types of eligibility requirements you might encounter for a grant, as well as kind of the program goals that the grant is to accomplish, right? So you're, as you look through this application, think of this as something you might apply for if you're ready to, or something, a similar set of questions in terms of eligibility requirements and program development that you might encounter for a future grant from the City of Fort Worth, or for a similar type of grant application process, right? You're typically going to encounter eligibility questions as well as program development questions where the grant making institution is going to look to see, do you have the capacity in place to deliver the program, right, that they're looking for you to deliver. So this is a HUD kind of allocated program to the City of Fort Worth, Community Development Block Grants, and the types of things that the city is looking to provide funding to a nonprofit organization is in 4 categories: emergency rental assistance, so emergency kind of housing assistance, childcare programs specifically related to employment, and employment related services, and youth education and tutoring. So we're just going to walk through this kind of section by section. But again, these are, there are other grants that are available that we're familiar with, such as the City of Fort Worth Police Department recently announced that it is accepting applications coming up for community-based programs. So this is just to say, this is an example, a current grant application deadline for November 16th. That's something very similar to other types of grant applications. So the first set of questions, you know, you're just answering what your organization is, who the contact person is, and then you're showing, and then you're selecting which one, all that apply, which types of activities your nonprofit organization provides. Rental assistance, childcare services related to somebody who's seeking a job, employment services, including resume preparation, job search assistance, and even things like bus passes or kind of job supports, right? Youth education and tutoring is another category. And just to kind of be specific, the childcare piece is for childcare programs for children up to age 13. The youth education piece is, I believe, can help people up to age 18. So you're identifying which of these, which of all of these do you provide services, and then you're specifying the funding request amount. We understand that the overall grant that the city of Fort Worth has 1.3 million approximately that it's looking to allocate through this kind of request for proposal that they've announced. So we were talking about this the other day. I think Eleazar suggested that 20% of, can you describe that, Eleazar?
Yeah, I was just discussing, that when I write a grant, I like to present a request amount that is about 20% of the revenue that I am reporting. So if I am reporting that I am receiving in-kind and cash donations $100,000, I feel comfortable requesting 20% of that, which would be $20,000.
And is that if you're a newer organization or older, or even if you've been around for 5 years?
If you've been good, thank you. Good question. If you haven't gotten grants and you don't have a track record with grants monies, even you have a track record of the work you're doing, but not receiving and managing grants, I would use that 20%. But if you've been around and you have a track record that's really good and you feel confident that your administrative person can handle the added money that's coming and the requirement of the reporting that you have to do, then by all means, I would say, go 40%, and you need to feel for how that is with every grant. So as you do them, you kind of get a sense of what you want to do. And I just don't think that individuals that are writing for the funding, they don't realize, because you don't know how much they have and how willing are they to give, right? So you want to give them something that they might say, yeah, we'll trust you with that. Anyway, I'll give it back to you. I hope I didn't
Thank you.
muddle it. Thank you.
So question number 6, what year was the agency established per the Secretary of State of Texas? So this is asking, when were you incorporated as a nonprofit organization, right? When did you meet that first state requirement to become an entity? Question 7, has the agency previously received grant funding from the City of Fort Worth? If so, when, right? So City of Fort Worth here is the grant making institution, and they want to identify if you're a previous recipient of funds allocated through the City of Fort Worth. Number 8, is the agency currently providing the program service for which it is applying? This is a crucial, this is a very important question here for this grant application, because to be eligible for this, grant, this current grant, you have to be a nonprofit organization. You have to serve low and moderate income individuals and household in the City of Fort Worth. And specifically, you have to already be offering a program or service under one of these 4 sections: emergency rental assistance or housing assistance, 2, childcare related to employment access types of programs, and 4th, youth education or tutoring or mentoring. So you have to already have 1 or more of these programs in place to be a successful applicant. Number 9, describe the program and services to be delivered and how the program will be delivered. Describe all the steps a typical client will experience from the time of initial referral or intake to the completion of delivery of the service. This is also an important question. You're describing what you currently do, what the process is, and kind of big picture, what the City of Fort Worth is looking to do is provide, a large amount of emergency rental assistance through community-based groups and nonprofit groups, with the hopes that that kind of assistance can be distributed right to the target beneficiary, meaning low and moderate income households. And one of the reasons the housing piece is so important is because there's currently a CDC eviction moratorium in place, which prevents people from being evicted, but the time frame for that is currently until the end of December. So after December, there's the expectation that landlords are in a position to use the court process to legally evict people, right, who have issues with non-payment of rent, right, very much because of COVID. So this type of
So sorry. There you go.
So this type of grant here is to provide this type of emergency housing assistance for people who may have rent arrears, right, unpaid rent for a number of months, or who may have experienced job loss and so are also anticipating difficulty paying rent. So the housing assistance is a big core component of the program. And what question 9 is asking is, what's your history of providing housing assistance and what's your application process? The way we've looked, I think Eleazar shared with the initial group of invitees the documents we've gotten from the City of Fort Worth related to the request for proposal and the frequently asked questions. And those types of documents describe how for the program management of this grant, they're looking to have documentation, and so they want their documentation related to documenting how the person was affected by COVID, a job loss, for example. So what question 9 is asking is, show us that you have a history of managing a program, including an eligibility determination, and so forth, right? That you have a screening process, that you have a paperwork process to deliver this program, including serving the target beneficiary, which is low and moderate income households. Question 10, describe the agency's history of providing the type of services proposed. In addition, describe any experience the agency has with providing the following direct services. Here in more specific detail: income eligibility, screening and documentation, case management, for rental assistance applications, experience working with housing programs or with landlords, property managers, or other housing providers. Also for rental assistance, knowledge of fair housing, civil rights, and landlord-tenant legal requirements related to provision of housing services. So, those are rules that HUD and HUD recipients are required to follow, right? Those are kind of civil rights laws that protect various protected class groups, including families with children and so forth, or people with disabilities. Question 11, with target populations, does the applicant agency generally work with in its current programs? Here they're looking for demographic data. Age, race, ethnicity, income, household makeup, housing tenure, geographic location, or neighborhood, disability, or employment status. What is the target population to be served with this proposal? And this is information, you know, that you could get from the target demographic you currently serve. But let's say you're new and you're kind of attending this session more to learn about grant applications in general and how you might design a program or look for documentation. I want to just put in the chat a great resource that I've used before, that Community Revitalization Project has used before, to look for data. And this is Opportunity 360. It's, let me see if I can, this is kind of the mysidewalk.com or enter, sometimes called mysidewalk.com or Enterprise Community Partners. They use this type of, they call it Opportunity 360, and it allows you to like plug in a census, you can plug in a zip code, you'll get a map, and then you can even select a census tract to pull data, and you'll pull a data report. The types of data points that are often useful are median income, as well as percent living at or below poverty. And those, the median income is, I think, in the general section, and the percent living at or below poverty is grouped in an economic, I think it's grouped in the economic stability section of the report. But that's a way, if you're working in a specific neighborhood, such as, I see two folks on the call work in the Como neighborhood, that's a way to pull that type of data using census tract data. So a good source for data. But if you have a specific client demographic that you're already serving, you know, you might already have that type of information available. If you're looking to identify data, the Opportunity 360 is a really good user-friendly way of generating the data report on an area. Question 11, question 12. Where and when will the proposed program service be provided? Address, day, time. Will the proposed program have a virtual service delivery components? So here, for this active grant application, the City of Fort Worth is looking for January 1st, 2021 to be the start date of the program. And here they're looking to either award grants for a 12-month period, meaning all of 2021, or for an 18-month period. So January 1st to June 30th of 2022. So they're trying to identify programs that can be completed within a 12-month period or an 18-month period. The second question, will the proposed program have a virtual service delivery component? That's important, of course, because of COVID and concerns about exposure. In particular, we saw that the youth education category that is that can be a virtual program as well. Question 13, how many unduplicated client households are estimated to be served by this program during the first 6 months of the contract? How many can be served in 12 months? What is the basis for this estimate? So some of the rules for the housing program, for example, describe that funds can be allocated for 100% of rent arrears as well as 6 months of housing assistance. So these kinds of questions, I think the grant making institution is looking to see how many people does this applicant have the capacity to serve, right? And what's your track record for doing that, and how do you kind of forecast who you'll be able to assist in this kind of grant cycle, 12-month, 18-month cycle? Question 14, describe the organization's capacity to provide the proposed service. How large is the agency? How many staff will be involved in delivering this program? Does the agency provide other related programming? Provide a list of programs currently provided by the agency with a one-sentence description of each program. So again, the grant making institution is asking what's about your track record,
are estimated to be
about your history, about how equipped you are to, do program delivery in terms of getting out housing assistance and the related category programs, childcare related to employment, and youth training. What ongoing partnerships question 15, what ongoing partnerships does the agency have with other service providers in the community? What is the nature of those partnerships? They're asking for more definition. How are you going to leverage your network to help us, the city, get these dollars out to high need communities that qualify for these programs? What's your capacity to coordinate with other, let's say, grassroots groups or with a network of community-based groups to make sure that the target beneficiary is able to, have access to these types of programs and funds, right? Question 16, does the applicant have any sources of leveraged or required matching funds? If so, please provide the sources, type, amount, documentation verifying these funds. If not, please provide an explanation describing any efforts, if any, to seek leveraging or matching funds. So this question, maybe we can come back to this question, but basically, if you have resources in place that you're already working with, so one of the kind of eligible expenses for this current grant application is that you can hire staff, additional staff to deliver the program, right? Housing assistance. We were planning on just helping 10 people this year. If we were able to receive this grant, we would be able to assist 20 people, 30 people. So you're kind of describing how you're already performing something and these additional funds will allow you to help more people. That's something that the grant making institution is looking for. Number 17, does the applicant,
Sorry. I do apologize.
No, thank you. 17, does the applicant use any sources of funds other than those provided by the city to deliver the program? What are the sources of leveraged funds? Please provide the sources, type, amount, documentation verifying these funds. If not, please provide an explanation. So again, if you've received any funds, from a different source, but for a similar category, this is something that the city is looking for because it again demonstrates this group has capacity. And it's like, if I just put in 10 more dollars, I can get 100%. It's a way of leveraging resources, right? Which is something that grant making institutions look for. Question 18, during the past 3 years, so this is looking for historical information. During the past 3 years, January 2017 to present, has the applicant received any federal or state grant funds? please list these by source and amount. They're looking here for track record information. Which agency did you receive federal or state grant funds from, right? During the past 3 years, has the agency been monitored or audited by any awarding agency of federal or state grant funds it administers? If so, were there any findings or concerns? Please provide the monitoring or review letters and any responses from the agency. So here they're looking for transparency and accountability, a record of good performance, that you would be a sound recipient of these program dollars. So that's what question 19 is asking for. Is there any controversy that they should be informed about? Question 20, during the past 3 years, January 2017 to present, has the agency had an external audit? If so, were there any findings or concerns? Please provide the most recently conducted audit review or financial statement review. Again, they're looking for financial records and to show you have the capacity not only to deliver the program, but to also document eligibility, provide supporting documents that the program was performed the way it should be, and these larger documents like an audit or a financial statement showing that your financial records have been reviewed, right? That you have that type of organizational capacity in place already. So are there other questions on Eleazar, on a?
No, that's the end of the application.
Okay. So we looked at the request for proposal also, which describes these questions, and that request for proposal also includes kind of like a scoring section where they describe how they weigh these questions, right? And I think that's coming up here in this next section. So let's see, organizational capacity and experience. They're looking to weigh that 30%, right? That's the largest weighted area. So they're looking for groups that have experience delivering on these types of programs. Housing assistance, childcare related to employment, and youth training programs. Project information, 10%, project results, 15%, maximize leverage resources, 25 points, project compliance, 20 points. So organizational capacity, the biggest, also maximizing leveraging resources. Groups that already have funding in place, they want to provide more because they think that will be the most effective way to get resources out. Program compliance, 20%, that you have ability to show that you're following the rules of the program, which include documenting that the target, that the groups served, that the individuals and households served have some type of paperwork showing that they qualify as part of program compliance according to the RFP.
All right. I want to just say that that segment that you went into is a portion of the helpful links that came to us from the city. So they're all in here in this tab, and we're going to make this this notebook available so that if anybody needs to go back and review any of the discussion items that we've had for today, they're able to, go through the application. If nothing more, you can use this as a system to help you to write your narrative for COVID-19. These questions are very specific, and they want to make sure that the COVID-19 situation is addressed. The CDBG requires more documents, more than these. They require a complete version of the narrative responses in the application questions that we just went over, the application questions from the application. A complete version of the fillable forms in the required attachments section. So there are fillable forms and declarations that the organization needs to fill in and upload. Complete a version of all the tables in the required worksheet section. So they have a worksheet that you will be completing. and then they want you to scan all the required supporting documents that you are referring to, and send that all in PDF format. There is also a self-evaluation questionnaire that needs to get completed. Besides that, then the next important item, and again, we don't expect that everybody will be able to rush and get this grant filed. It's possible. You need to devote resources, but if you understand this process now, the next one that comes in, you will already have a roadmap to what you need, how you need to navigate it. So initially, we researched and found that the submission of proposals that they want, these are all the instructions. What we did was we distilled the information and put it here. We actually followed the submission of the proposal instructions and found that the link that they had given us was not active. So we reached out to them and they gave us an active link. So this link in here will open a portal that you can upload your organization's information into in the form of your application. Again, these are the important items from what we distilled. This is the research. Full proposals must be submitted by November 16th. And then this is relating to the Zoom grants, online portal that they have. The next important date that we're looking at is November 9th. And this is important when you're writing these grants, is to follow up and keep up to date with the funding entity. So, you know, if they give you a date, you want to know that for that date, you'll be looking for something. And in this case, any and all questions that have been submitted through yesterday, they will be posting those. So we want to look at that to make sure that we don't miss anything if we're serious about writing this grant. Sam, I had asked you to give us this section and talk about why you would be disqualified.
Okay. I guess we'll start at the top of the list. Program services that do not prevent, prepare for, or respond to coronavirus. It is important that when you're talking about your programs, that you somehow mention how it relates to victims of coronavirus, or preventing coronavirus, or preparing for coronavirus. Let me give you just one example. If we were applying for this and we asked for money to pay lawyers to represent clients to prevent evictions, that in and of itself doesn't relate to coronavirus. So we would add that the reason these people are facing eviction is because of their severe loss of income due to unemployment related directly to the coronavirus. That would, in effect, satisfy that particular point. Second point, failure to submit Section 504 self-evaluation questionnaire. You must always fill out all the questionnaires related to an application. If you have any particular questions or problems with the form, we're always here to answer those questions. No established business formation per the Secretary of State. You have to have filed a formal, what is it called? Articles of Incorporation, right? Articles of Incorporation with the Texas Secretary of State. We have one that dates back decades. We keep it around and send a copy whenever we submit one of these applications, simply because that is required. Lack of business financial documents. You should have a checking account in the name of your organization. You should have financial statements in the name of your organization. If you've had an independent audit, you should submit that as well. If not, you should submit financial statements that have been prepared by an accountant who knows how to prepare such financial statements. Limited organizational capacity. If your organization does not have sufficient staffing to be able to properly perform in the program that you're proposing, then you will be disqualified. So you should think very carefully about what kinds of staffing you need, what kinds of other organizational resources you should have in order to properly perform with the program that you're requesting funding for. And then you should request funding for those things that you don't have. Lack of documented programs or services being provided. If you have no proof that you've ever done this in the past, then they're going to look at you as someone who's inexperienced. Limited or no experience managing grants. If you have no experience managing grants like this, the people who are considering your application will look at that very seriously. You will have to show them that you have the capacity to manage grants such as this. Failure to submit final proposal to Neighborhood Services Department via Zoom grants by 11:59 p.m. on November 16th. You must submit your proposal before 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time on November 16th. Alteration or modification to any of the required forms. You must keep the forms the way they are and simply answer the questions. If you fail to meet the requirements of the RFP, then you will be disqualified. So you should look at all of the requirements very carefully and then attempt to meet them to the best of your ability. The proposal involves an activity that is ineligible or does not meet funding objectives. If you're requesting funding for a program that does not relate specifically to what they are asking organizations to provide in their RFP, then you will be disqualified. So you cannot simply ask for something you want to do if it's not what they want to pay for. And finally, ambiguous or incomplete responses. If at all possible, use simple phrasing and short sentences to present the ideas that you're trying to present so that they accurately and adequately fulfill what the RFP is asking for.
Very well. Thank you, Sam.
No extra charge.
Okay. All right. The check will be in the mail as soon as we're done with this. We already went through some helpful links from the city. Nancy was describing that. And the city also provided us with grant writing tips. We're just going to go over them briefly. This is what we have been discussing since last October. These tips always come back to them time and time again in grant writing, in our grant writing sessions. So we'll do it briefly. You start preparing the application early. You follow the instructions of the request for proposal carefully, and you answer all the questions that they are asking, not the ones that pop up in our heads. We need to keep our audience in mind. In this case is the city, and they give you a list of the people that are evaluating these proposals. So that's your audience. Be brief, concise, and clear. Make your points understandable. Be organized and logical. Show the evidence of fiscal stability and sound fiscal management. Attend to technical details. Such as, the online submission of the proposal, making sure that you are technically minded, that you don't let something slip because you were too busy with other things. When you're doing a grant, you focus on the grant. Be sure to include all required attachments as Sam just mentioned before. Print out and carefully proofread and review your application. Don't read your application. Don't read your application on the screen. When you put it on paper, there's something, you're able to catch more mistakes that way. Let's just put it that way. Submit all information on time. And bonus tip, prepare for technical difficulties, meaning, you know, you don't want to be doing this on the day of if you can do it 2-3 days before. We are basically speaking about a different kind of grant than we have been teaching about before. The nonprofits grant writing sessions that we've had before have been more toward organizations that are community-based, that are ready to give a little bit of money to a nonprofit, and they're more lenient with regards to your experience. If you can convince them with your passion and your documentation specifically, yes, but also your projections. If you can catch somebody's attention with that, you can get a grant. That is unlike this CDBG grant, where they are telling you, if this is true, then this is true. If this is a response that we don't like or that is not meeting our standard, then this application is not going to go through. Now, the reason why it's important to understand, and if you're serious about grant writing, to really see what a federal grant is requesting, and it's because you're able to then use that for any other nonprofit. You just have to put a lot more heart into it and a lot more descriptive passion as to your why. All that to say, all of the questions that were asked in the application originally are responded to in this 4-part summary. And this template, you can fill it with the responses from the application and then submit it again to another entity, because I think, but not to the COVID-19 grant, because they want the responses in a specific orderly fashion. Otherwise, you would see that, for instance, in this template, it's a promotora template. A promotora is a funding program that the federal government understands and relates to church groups, in which the government provides for CDBG funding for church groups to receive the money to pay individuals within the organization to teach something that the government wants them to teach. In this case, COVID-19 related stuff. There could be a situation in which your particular program is not a promotora type of program, but you can also use the same system to even add to whatever it is that you're doing. What I'm trying to get at is, when you present a grant, you should have a strategy in it. This particular template is for a train-the-trainer type of system. So we're just going to go over it very quickly. The applicant name, is always a part of it. The project title, Healthy Families, Healthy Homes. Now, Healthy Families is actually a federal government program. And so you would attach to that, okay, the federal program's title is Healthy Families. We're going to work on healthy homes. So now you have an angle. And then you begin to speak to what the problem is, environmental justice in these areas of concern to the benefit of sensitive population. So you're explaining what it is, and you speak about your project serving low-income an urban city, and you talk about the percentages of who you're serving. Any geographical area, but specifically zip codes and neighborhoods are important to highlight. And you want to let them know, these are our target audiences. This is who we are looking to benefit. So it's clear in, where do you want them to invest? well, yeah, and these, this target population. I'm not going to go through all of this because we've already gone over the application itself and the disqualification items. But within your program, I included a COVID component. So you're talking about the families that you're helping, and you need to make a COVID statement, a projection, strategic plan, something. Otherwise, in this case, it wouldn't relate to the questions that the grantor is asking. When you're doing something like this, I want to point out that, get somebody who's good with Word. And if you make it look like this, where you put that normally should be in bold and black. But if you're going to do something like this and you're telling them, what you're telling them is, there's a lot of information. We're not going to cloud this beautiful statement we just made. The resources or the reference is found here. So then it's more of a more elevated grant presentation, if you will, when you do it this way, which you can also answer questions and then do the attachment, relate the information on something down here and attach something in the back. If it's flyers, if it's just documentation, letters of support, whatever it is that you're talking about, and specifically again should always be related to, in this grant, COVID-19. Summary of information. So you again provide your history. You talk about the goals and COVID-19 relation. Again, this is the promotora to build capacity of parents and city residents through educational workshops to reduce asthma, triggers, lead poisoning, and exposure in their homes that affect the health of children and adults. So this particular grant idea is to train the trainers so that they are going to go and get into the homes and train the families about the things that they can do, even in rundown situations in homes that are low income, which foster this kind of asthma triggers and things like this. So this is to teach, pay somebody to teach the community. And so they get paid to learn it and to teach it, and they get paid the cost of having all of that process happening. You can make a promotora grant succeed with this COVID-19, but you need to have a specific plan that makes sense. So again, this is a template that we put together to show how a CDBG grant is done. We are adding the COVID-19 component, and this area right here that we're just discussing is just the strategic plan of the organization. So promotora is just an idea. Whatever program you're running, then that would take place of this explanation. They want to know how you're going to measure. So you tell them whether it's expected or whether it's actual. You tell them that. You refer it back again to COVID-19. This is usually an attachment. We, in our previous workshops, went over this, and this is a template that you all have. And if you don't have it, you can ask us for it. This is to help you set up your objectives. So, what's going to be happening. And so you pretty much go down and list 1, 2, 3 items for this objective, who's responsible, what's the timeline, and what's going to be, I do apologize, what are going to be the deliverables, what impact are you going to have, that kind of a thing. So this is something that they always want. This is pretty much their timeline and objectives. And so, objective 1, objective 2, objective 3, again, all of this needs to be related to COVID-19 for this specific grant. And then the last portion of this, let me see, is you do a past performance, and capacity information. You talk about yourself. We discussed this before, I'm not gonna get into it, but they do ask for, do you have an agreement with somebody or a grant that you got, or even a COVID-19 loan? That's something you put down here. But if you don't have those things, you can talk about collaboration agreements that are that you have in the works, that you are serving the community through collaboration with the provision of other services that another person is, another entity is providing. So you're collaborating. And the more of those that you have, the more you look like you are a community support organization, and they would be looking at you more seriously, because your support adds to your experience and your credibility. Personnel, you need to talk about who is doing what, and this is just stuff that you put in this application, goes in later. But you want to talk about your director, who he or she is doing what, and what did they do before, and how successful were they. Just talk about any history that you have for the personnel that's going to be involved in your objectives. And besides that, that's the end of this segment. And you all have, well, most of you have received this budget template, which pretty much shows, let me change this, pretty much shows your operating budget for the money that you're asking. The entity that's giving you money, they want to know where the money's going, and they want to know what other money is next to the money that you have, as Nancy was speaking about leveraging. Leveraging is, you're using somebody else's support, and that is not costing you money. So in this case, again, we went through this before, that would be in-kind income, and whether it's donations in cash or in kind. And you let them know in your operating budget where the money is going to be spent. So for the grant that we're discussing now, we would be changing all of this, and we would be talking about the program. Let's say we're going to put together a program to educate the youth in COVID-19 awareness and anything along the lines of that. Let's say it'll cost us so much to train 5, 10 promotoras, let's say. And so we total the amount of hours that each one is going to invest in getting themselves ready, trained, doing the actual outreach, and providing the actual service of training. And so all of that you quantify, and you put down what it would cost here. And then that's how they will know, okay, they are able to manage this amount of money, but they're only asking us for this amount of money, that kind of a thing. This template is available to everybody. I would like to, at this point, then go back to the PowerPoint, okay? And the next thing that we have, I like to teach, and I always say this, I like to teach with the sandwich method, which is, we tell you what we're going to tell you about, then we tell you about it, and then we tell you what we told you about. This is something that you should keep in mind, particularly if you're new, which everybody here is, to grant writing. This is a process that starts, and step one is that you read the grant instructions. Sam was mentioning that you need to read them. If you don't like to read, don't appoint yourself as a person that is going to read the grant, because you need to pull information out of there that is important to know. Step two, you collect the required documentation. Every time you learn, I need this, you write it down, you go get it. Doesn't have to be that moment, but you have a priority document collection thing going on the side. Step three, you understand the grantor's questions. So you don't rush it, just read the question. What are they asking for? Definitely COVID-19 in this case, but are they looking for my history? Are they looking for my leveraging of resources? Are they looking for whatever they're looking for? I need to understand the question so that I can answer it, and they want you to be brief. Whatever the question is, this is the answer. You provide sufficient narrative with that, of course. Step 4, you prepare a convincing program, or if it's already running, you narrate a convincing program and financial narrative responses. So if you don't write down what you're doing, and if you don't keep track by having reports, how many volunteers came in, you know, how many people were serviced, what were they given, what zip code did it happen in? If you don't have that written down, it didn't happen. So it's good if you quantify, and at the end of whatever period you can say we have serviced X amount of people. That's the kind of convincing program and financial narrative responses that you need. Numbers that are by experience are really good, but I've also known that without experience, you can get grant monies. Not in this grant, but generally, if you have a good program and you present it well, you can get funding. Yes, Sam?
I just wanted to add that you shouldn't underestimate the value of what they call leverage. In HUD grants, any additional resource that is used to support your program is considered leverage. If you provide a building that the grant budget is not paying for, then you put in the value of your occupancy of the space of that building for the purposes of this program as leverage. If you are running program sessions at other organizations' facilities, you should include the value of using that space for whatever period of time that you're using it as leverage. If other organizations are providing staff to support your staff for purposes of this program, again, that's leverage. Anything that you can add that is value is considered a positive point for your application. HUD loves the idea that they spend $1 and get $1,000 back in services, just as an example.
Thank you, Sam. So that's how you prepare convincing programs. You showcase all of the above, and then you wrote it, you review it, you review it, you review it, you give it to somebody else to review, and you review it again. And then when you're convinced this is the best possible representation of who we are, what we do, where we do it, what we want to do, what we need to do, and how much money we need to get it done. When you're completely clear on that, then you can hit send. I'd like to open it up for question and answers.
Okay, hi. Right now we don't have any anything in the chat, but
okay, you can speak it out. Thank you, Rosetta. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Rose, Russ, Jaime, Cameron, Anika, and Lashonda. Any questions? No questions.
I have a question. Would the greenhouse I was donated be considered as collateral?
It's an asset. It's collateral if you are getting a loan. But for the organization, it's an asset. Sam?
If you're using it for your program, then yes, it would be considered leverage.
Okay.
The whole point is anything that you're using for the program that you're applying for funding is considered leverage. So if it has some bearing on the program that you're asking them to pay for, yes, it's leverage.
Okay. All right. So I'm wondering, I'm looking for Marcus. Oh, Tia Cole is coming. Okay. He's been waiting. I'm admitting a couple of people and I do apologize.
uh-oh, did I miss them?
Yeah, but no, they just came in. They just came in.
Okay.
I want to welcome, well, let me wait for them to show up. Veteran Ernest Walker, thank you for being here. We're going to do a little bit of introduction later, and I could fill you in on the information. I know that you've been trying to make it in. We have been discussing the workshop, and we're going to be recording it. We have been recording it. We're going to be providing it to you for use. But I want to thank everyone for coming in. And besides these questions and answers, I do know that when you're beginning to do this, this is not something that you are able to initially just start writing. You need to develop a team. You always need a team. If you don't have a team, it's next to impossible to manage the. Okay, Tia, thank you. If you don't have, it's impossible for you to manage the requirements of the production of the grant and also the reporting on the grant. So what I'd like to do is just give you, I'm just gonna go ahead and, hold on a second, move this thing forward. We would like for everyone to do this for us. Ernest, basically, yes. I just want to make sure that you're looking at this. This is kind of information that in general, if you are quantifying all of this, you have the foundation to present or to build your grant. Community Revitalization Project is a nonprofit that provides legal services and education support. We need to also quantify what it is that we are doing. So I put this community support survey together quickly, and I'm going to ask of you that if you go to the chat and answer these questions for us, I'll tell you how we will be using it and how it applies to you. Initially, when we started doing these workshops, we spoke about putting together a community service provider list, which everybody wanted to be a part of because everybody wanted to let the community know we're doing this. And perhaps if you have a list, you can partner with somebody else and create a better network. So, so we are asking everybody to put in the community support responses that you see on the screen. Your name, the position that you're holding there, whether you're a volunteer, you're the founder, whatever you want to call you as. If you're the founder, you're probably wearing all the hats. The name of your organization and what it is that you're serving. How many people, if you know it by families or individuals, do you service? If you don't have actual numbers, you can say the projected number is. We would like to know what zip code or what neighborhoods you are working in. So if you have your zip codes, if you can put that in the chat and give us your email address. What we're going to do with this is we're going to piece together the beginning of a community service provider list that we're going to be giving back out to you so that you guys can use it to expand your network and, as Sam and Nancy mentioned, improve your leverage. So if I can ask everybody to take a moment to do that, I'll be quiet and let your ears breathe.
And while you guys are doing that, there's some, if you read the chat that I guess PA, we got their 20 electoral votes. So Joe Biden is declared the winner, which would mean he will be president-elect starting 2021.
That's right. Thank you for sharing that, Steve. These are the days that we're living.
Well, I'm a Trump supporter, so I'm getting off this now.
Uh-oh.
You didn't hear that, Ernest.
No matter what your politics are, I still love you. You're my brother American.
Okay. So yeah, I want.
No one's putting that.
No one is providing us. Okay, I'm not going to force you, but we do. This is the kind of work. This is kind of data that we at CRP also the same as you when you're providing information to the Okay, that's interesting. When you're providing information to your funding sources and even to the people that you want to fundraise from, this is the kind of information that you want to have readily available. I think I lost Marcus. But since there are no questions, what I'd like to do is I want to throw Rose under the bus. And we were discussing yesterday, and Rose has been with CRP since we started back when the world was new. A year ago, she had set up her 501c3 and was working with the community. And now I would like for her to tell us how things are different, particularly in the area of receipts, and how do you quantify the revenue that you have? Rose, did I drone you into a coma? No, I want you to talk about your experiences now with making sure that you quantify the donations, particularly in kind. You're muted. Okay.
I make sure I make in-kind receipts for the people that are donating things, and I do I do all my receipts, in-kind receipts, all the receipts that I need. On the in-kind receipts, I make sure I make 2 copies, and they sign one and keep one, as do I do the other one.
Okay.
Both in-kind.
That's something that you were not doing before?
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
I didn't even know about giving the in-kind receipts.
Okay.
Or any of the receipts that I needed. But now that I know, it seems to encourage people to do it more, since they know that they can write it off on taxes.
Remember,
Mhm.
we don't tell them that they can write anything off on taxes. We tell them that they can use this for their tax purposes. Because
Okay.
yeah, you can't, depending on their taxes, it may not be a deduction. So I want to.
Okay. So that's the mistake I've been telling them. I've been telling them that they can use it as a tax write-off.
Yeah, no, and I can tell you that I love being able to do this with you because you put yourself out there.
Mm-hmm.
Can learn. The same. I wanted Marcus to be here because he had a story that I wanted him to tell as well. But yes, you learn something and you continue to do it going forward. So I know you're not going to forget that you need to provide in-kind receipts. And people who are donating them have to tell you the cost, and they have to sign indicating who they are and what they.
Yes.
So all of that helps you to increase the revenue that you have, that you're reporting.
Rose, a good sentence that you might consider remembering is you should consult your tax advisor on the deductibility of this.
Okay.
Or words to that effect.
Yeah.
Okay.
We are tax advisors. We simply suggest to them that they discuss it with their tax advisor, but that it is deductible.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And I don't give it for $20. It has to be a large amount, at least $50 and more, then I give them a receipt. And most people give me $50 more than one time, so it adds up for them for the year. I kind of go out for my tax form that I received from church for the year.
Yeah.
So I kind of know
So
how it goes.
Yes. Let me ask you this, and then since there are no questions, we'll let the audience go, and we'll work diligently to put out the recording. Rose, I know that you've had 2 experiences submitting grants. This is new for you. I remember the first time when you couldn't make it, but then the second time you did. What was the difference that you were able to submit a grant and the second time and not the first, and what did you learn in between?
I learned to make sure you have all your information beforehand. Because before I got to the very end and I didn't know what a document was that they was asking me for. So I would say, look at your grant that you're gonna do beforehand so you can understand and know what everything is before you do it. So I got to the very end and I couldn't submit it because they asked me for a form and I had no clue what it was. So I didn't get to do it.
And then you got depressed.
I got depressed about it because I knew I wasn't going to get it. So I learned to look at your grant beforehand and everything that they're asking for, make sure you know what that document is. So you will have it and have it prepared to send through. I had no clue what it was, so I knew there's no way I could get it because I didn't know what it was. So I knew I couldn't send it through.
Yeah, but
you can't just send anything. You have to send the correct thing that they're asking for.
Yeah, and that's good. I actually have been in situations where our organization has presented a grant, and you know how you always try to make a dignified entrance? Well, I've been involved with grants that sort of like stumble into the stage and everything is all disheveled, you know, not a pretty thing. So if you schedule it ahead of time to work with people that will help you, bouncing off ideas, this sounds good, you should put that in, you leave that out, whatever comment. So it's not just your world out there, but a collaboration. A grant from a nonprofit group has to be a collaboration from the hearts that are working the nonprofit, you know. Thank you, Rose. I just wanna thank you because you don't mind putting yourself out there, and the same thing with Marcus. You know, I'll ask you guys questions and you screw up something and you don't mind saying, yeah, I'm with that. It helps everybody to learn. Ernest, I know, you know, we had difficulty getting you in. I'm going to work diligently to get the workshop recording to everybody, but definitely to you. I know we started talking about this actual grant in Fort Worth that ABC might be interested in applying for. I'll give you a summary of the recording with the actual recording. I'll give you a summary of the recording as to these are the specific areas that we cover, so you have something in writing. But also, I would recommend that you and Debbie take time looking at the at this, and it's because you need to understand all of these areas, and I want to make sure that all of the information is received by everybody. And if you feel like you can do this, by all means.
Eliezer,
yeah.
Now I know the meetings are recorded.
Yes, sir.
So I can get access to a recording of this meeting?
I am going to work on that today to send you an actual link of the recording. So yes, what I do is kind of like clip it so it's not that long, and you know, areas that we can save time in, so you guys don't need to go through. Hello, Debbie.
Hello, how are you? Good morning.
Thank you for being here. I was just letting you know that I'm going to send you guys an email just summarizing what is going to be the link with the recording of the session for today, which lasted, it'll probably be, when we edit it, it'll probably be 30 to 40 minutes. We're trying to make it short so that we know your time is valuable, and we want to just showcase the more important portions of what we did today. So thank you again for being here, and we hope that you guys, because I know that the work that you guys are doing, you have the track record and you have all these things. So if an organization is ready to do this, from what I know of the groups that are here, I think you guys can give it a go. And if not, you know, for the next one, the experience, you can't buy experience. So.
Right. And I apologize to the group for my tardiness. I had a text from someone to say it was 2 p.m., but you are correct. There is also an email for 11, but I am here and I am committed.
Okay, I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Let me see. The next thing I wanted to say was, under normal circumstances, next week would have been our review of the how to file your organization's 990EZ. We went over the entire tax form, showing how you quantify so that, you know, your numbers are where they should be.
Right.
And so that was a 3-part nonprofit education on nonprofit tax filings 990EZ.
Okay.
It was supposed to be next week, the third one, to review everything. But because of this grant, we have decided that we're going to push that 1 week into the future for the 21st. And on the 14th, we're going to go over more of this CDBG. So we're going to do this again, but I'm going to go online into the system to find out how their portal is working. So
Now, would you be okay if I brought my CPA in? I've had a CPA from the inception that files all of my 990s and all of my reports.
sure.
So is that something that
Yeah,
we need to be a part of, or should I just bring my CPA in, or what?
I think if the CPA is welcome.
Okay.
I was expecting one today. She happens to be a nonprofit CPA, but she obviously couldn't make it. But definitely they can come in, and what's going to happen is that last review is going to be on the 21st at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
But next Saturday is sort of like the continuation of this grant to show how you complete the CDBG application. And in order to do that, I will be going into the portal that the city has open so that I can learn, what you might expect when you are doing electronic filing. So on the 14th, we're going to do a second session of this, and whether you are able to submit a grant or not, the main issue is going through the experience of beginning to put your narratives together, your budgeting together, your justifications together. And if we could do that, we'll sort of like spend some time on, again, the difference between a CDBG grant and a regular foundational grant is there's so much detail. So today we sort of like scratch the surface, and we will revisit it next Saturday at 10 o'clock. Okay. Anybody has any questions?
No.
Okay, and do you want to reiterate, Nancy, that something about opening doors for women offers housing assistance and employment assistance? I just want to make sure you guys saw that from Nancy.
I'm just kind of relating it back to the earlier discussion on the city's CDBG grant, just saying, so many of the groups that were here today, in a way you might phrase your programs, in some ways, but sometimes when you rephrase it in the program category that the grant making institution is looking for, it's actually very much aligned. So just encouraging folks to understand that.
Thank you.
Okay, so we do have some responders, and I do want to thank you for your information. We're going to be summarizing this information on a, again, community service provider list, and as more people give us information as to what they do and where they do it, and how many people they're serving, that'll help us for our reporting purposes as a nonprofit that is also dependent on grants. So we're asking you for the information that you should be looking for as far as the numbers, your costs, and just the same information that you would share with a funder. Let me see, Rosetta, is there anything in the chat that you saw that we should address? I mean, we did address the Pennsylvania call.
Everything, it seems like that we have a lot of people given the information that you requested. Nancy just went over what she put in the chat, and I don't see anything else.
Okay, fantastic. In that case, I want to thank everyone for your time. We value that. We do ask you that you consider, I'm doing this myself, daily, do something for yourself. We're always doing something for others. It's time that sometimes you do something for yourself, something that you enjoy to help you recharge and then go back to helping the less fortunate. I want to thank you, Sam, for being here, Nancy, Rosetta, definitely, Steve for being on the outskirts, paying attention and giving us valuable information, and every one of you who has spent some time with us. We want to say we value your time and we look forward to sharing more information with you as we collaborate towards a better capacity building. So thank you, everyone, and we will see you guys soon.
Thank you. I'm going to hang out for a minute. Are you going to hang out for a minute, Eliezer? Okay.
No, you can go. You can go. I will be a good host and wait till everybody's gone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rose.
Thanks, Eliezer.
Thanks, Nancy. I appreciate it. Your insight, the detail that you provided on those sections. That was really good. I really want to thank you for taking the time to get all that in there.
Thank you.
Debbie, you're muted.
Okay.
Debbie, you're muted.
One, you all have a wonderful Saturday, and I agree with you. Take some time to refresh yourselves as a nurse. Make sure you get 7 hours of sleep to 8. Make sure that you get your vitamin C, zinc, your vitamin D3, go outside, get some sunlight, and certainly make sure you eat colorful fruits and vegetables. That is your best defense right now. Wear your mask, hand washing, and eye protection. God bless you all.
And
Thank
my
you.
last thing is, don't start none, won't be none.
All right. I'll see you guys.
Bless y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.